of the Finance Committee meeting at 9:08 a.m. I need a roll call, please, with your location where you're at.
Commissioners Markham,
I'm here in Novi. Thank you.
Middleton,
Here, Independence Township.
Gershenson,
Here, Bloomfield Township.
McGillivray,
Here, Madison Heights.
Quarles,
Here, Southfield.
Howell,
Here, Pontiac.
Long,
Here, Commerce Township.
Howell,
Here, White Lake Township.
and Zach.
Here, Huntington Woods.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Stand with me. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag
of the
of the
United
United
States
States
of
of
America,
America
to the
and to the
republic
republic
which it
for which
stands,
it stands,
one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
liberty and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Thank you. Now, I need an approval of the agenda, but I'm going to rearrange things. I'm going to move up item number 9, which is the presentation of the Water Resources Commissioner, and make that item number 7. And then the Board of Commissioners compensation, our adjustments for elected officials will be number 8. And the reorg of the Board of Commissioners will be number 9. So I need a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Commissioner Gershenson, supported by Commissioner Kowal. Are there any questions about the agenda? Okay, thank you. I didn't want to have WRC wait, and also we need a little bit of time refining some details on the BOC reorganization. So this works out better. Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. So do I have any public comment this morning?
Good morning. Your public comment lines are open. You currently have no callers. We do not have any online or written submissions, and we have no visitors in the auditorium this morning.
Thank you, Aaron. I appreciate. Seeing and hearing that there's no public comment, I'm going to close it. Moving on to, there are no communications this morning. Moving on to the regular agenda. Item number 1, Board of Commissioners, County Exec Appointment, Director of Management and Budget. And I want to welcome our Deputy County Exec, Sean Carlson, and Commissioner Kowal is moving it. And who's going to second it? Commissioner McGillivray. Thank you, Sean. The floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you today and introduce to you County Executive Coulter's appointment to the Director of Management and Budget. Before I turn it over back to the chairman or chairwoman and Kyle Jen, I just wanted to give a little bit of an outline of the process that we've been going through. We posted this position back in October. We received more than 54 applications. We narrowed those applications down to 4. We had a round 1 interview with those 4 applicants, and then we narrowed it down to 2 individuals. And after much discussion and deliberation, without a doubt, County Executive Coulter indicated that Kyle Jen and the deputies who interviewed provided strong support for Kyle Jen as the appointment. So I wanted to present that to you today and then turn it over to Madam Chair.
Thank you. So Kyle, would you like to introduce yourself to our committee, please? I want to welcome you to Oakland County soon.
Thank you. Good morning. As Sean indicates, my name is Kyle Jen. It's an honor to have gone through this process and to be appearing before you today. I'll give you just some brief background on my career to date, and then happy to answer any questions after that. I have been working on the state budget for about 22 years with various roles and responsibilities. The first 18 years of that tenure were with the House Fiscal Agency. It's nice to see a familiar face with Commissioner Kowal, who served during that time. So I work for the agency whose mission is to provide budget support and analysis to all 110 members of the Michigan House of Representatives. I served as Deputy Director of the agency for my final 5 years there, helping the agency director coordinate statewide analyses across the full state budget. For the last 4 years, I've had the honor of serving in the executive branch as the state's Deputy State Budget Director. The first 2 years were under Governor Snyder, and then the last 2 years have been under Governor Whitmer. So I helped manage the transition between those two administrations. I've certainly had the chance to work on a lot of interesting issues in terms of the state budget and various parts of the state budget. Over the last 4 years, I'm proud to have been a part of continuing to improve the state's financial position, including building the state's rainy day fund up to about $1.2 billion before the current economic downturn, and ensuring that we had a structurally balanced budget. And then obviously the last 9 months, like you all at the county, I've been a part of managing the state budget through the impact of COVID and getting actions approved by the legislature on a bipartisan basis to balance the fiscal year 2020 budget and get a fiscal year 2021 budget in place, all in a pretty compressed time period. So I'm certainly looking forward to joining Executive Coulter's team, contributing toward investing county taxpayer dollars as wisely as possible, and maintaining and building on the county's well-deserved reputation for strong financial management, as evidenced by its AAA bond rating. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So do Commissioner Kowal.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and it was such a pleasant surprise to see Kyle Jen be put up for this appointment. He was wonderful to work with in the legislature, always able to answer any questions, and just a very professional demeanor, just a real class act. So I'm certainly glad to have him here, and it's good also to have a connection with Lansing, especially one in the budget area. And I guess if you can deal with 110 state representatives, maybe you can deal with 21 commissioners. I'm not sure, but welcome aboard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kowal. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Gershenson.
Well, welcome, Mr. Jen. I'm very impressed with your resume. I like that you have worked in a bipartisan way, and certainly your budget experience is going to be very valuable for us as we move forward. So happy to approve this appointment.
Any other questions or comments? So my one regret here is I am retiring and I won't have the wonderful opportunity to work with you closely. But I think you will be a tremendous member of the Coulter team. So welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, let's call the roll, please.
On item number 1, Commissioners Markham,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Colwell,
Yes.
Zach.
Yes,
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas and 0 nays.
thank you. Moving on to item number 2, County Executive Appointment, Director of Human Resources. I need a motion, please. Commissioner Gershenson, supported by Commissioner Markham. And I want to welcome our Deputy County Exec, April Lynch. And April, do you want to start off, please?
Sure can. Thank you so much, Chairwoman Zach. I want to say thank you again for everybody's patience as we work through this process. As you know, we have been without an HR director, much like MMB and Economic, for over a year. Mine was on purpose. I wanted to make sure that I had a better pulse on the organization and making sure we understood exactly what we needed. I want to talk a little bit about the process before I introduce Brittany. One of the things that I learned a long time ago is how important the HR is, not only to the organization as it relates to leadership, but also the employees as well. And so one of the things that I had implemented in the past, and I did here, is that I wanted to make sure that I had an inclusive process. So much like Sean, we had about 120 applications for this position. We narrowed it down to about 15, 20, had them do some videos and some writing samples and lowered to I then had a panel of folks, some department heads here, included 2 county-wides, WRC and the Sheriff's Department, in those first interviews because they had the 2 largest departments. From there, we narrowed it down to 3 finalists. I was very, very fortunate to be able to have 3 finalists come back for what we call second interviews. That day, they met with not only myself again, but all of our deputies and Executive Dave Coulter, as well as I created a leadership interview process that allowed supervisors and department directors throughout the county, as well as union leadership, to sit and participate in interviews there, and then ended with our HR team as well, getting to be able to have time with those 3 candidates. And during those times, I was able to have a feedback survey that I was able to take into consideration when we made our final decision. So I was pleased. They had a marathon day that day, and I was pleased with the outcome. And here I am with Brittany Anthony, and she is our recommendation to confirm for the next HR director. And with that, I can turn it over back to Commissioner Zach, and we can go from there.
Thank you. Brittany, would you please introduce yourself, and then we'll entertain any questions from the committee.
Sure, thank you. So good morning, everyone. I'm honored to be here. My name is Brittany Anthony. As you've heard April mention my name, and I just want to give you a little bit of my background. I have been working in the field of human resources for 13 years now, and 8 of those years include nonprofit and government experience. I had the wonderful opportunity to, when I was in Washington, D.C., to obtain my master's degree in education and human resources development. I was working with Arlington County while I was obtaining my master's. And while I was at Arlington, I worked under the director there, and we facilitated a focus group looking at organizational development and how we could create a future where baby boomers would be shifting out. So we needed to really strategize and understand how we could build a good talent management strategy and acquisition strategy to bring in the new generation that would be coming into the workforce. So that was amazing to have an opportunity to work for a large county organization and entity in the Washington, D.C. metro area. I also have a bachelor's degree in psychology and a minor in management from Grand Valley State University. And I enjoy the field of HR when it comes to being able to provide guidance and counsel to all levels of staff, really even educating employees on how their positions directly impact or align, the overall mission and vision of the organization, whether that's through an amazing training and development strategy, even the onboarding, making sure that employees have a very clear understanding of the employer that they're working for. And so they know coming in the door, okay, I'm going to make a difference. I have a direct tie to the bottom line. And in this case, working for Oakland County, I am very excited to have the opportunity to work with the HR team to build strategies with acquisition, talent management, training, and really showing the community at large how, we're here to make a difference. We're here to serve the community and just foster innovative ideas that will reduce internal costs while also increasing the community, the services that we provide, and increasing the quality that we provide to our local residents and city community, the community at large. So I'm really excited, honored to be here. And I know that the current business objectives are everything that I value personally. And so I'm really just excited to get started.
Welcome, Brittany. I think you will be a fabulous addition. Arlington County is, I know it, I lived there briefly, and it's one of the counties that we look at when we're looking at comparable programs. So you're bringing lots of experience to us in both private and public. So with that, do I have any questions for Brittany from the committee? See, Commissioner Gershenson, followed by Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Chairwoman Zach. Brittany, welcome. And reading your resume, I see you have experience with compensation plans, which is a good thing. We're about to implement ours. And also you mentioned leadership coaching. Could you explain that to me?
Yeah, so at Gold Star Mortgage Financial is a good example. When I got there, there had to be a big cultural change with trust. So my role was really focused on building trust internally, and that started from the top down. And so I did employee satisfaction surveys and also focus groups. And we learned that our managers really weren't equipped with the tools that they needed to really be people managers and leaders that would help with the increased end goal of our production, making sure that our output was quality. And so I ended up working with a third-party administrator, and we created a mandatory leadership training, and that also included one-on-one coaching with me. So I would meet with leaders, you'll say if there were areas that were identified that they really needed someone to really lean in and coach them on day in and day out, I would be the point of contact for that. But we had the structured cohort weekly training that all of our leaders, even including our executives, were required to attend. And it went over very well. We did also a feedback loop survey, and we learned that we could see that there was improvement with our leaders and that the training was having an effective impact on them in the workplace.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Powell.
Hi, Brittany. I just want to say I'm so happy to see you joining the culture team soon. I'm happy that when I first got on, diversifying our staff was one of the big things that I touted on and have encouraged or tried to help with in regards to our county staff looking more diverse of what our county looks like. So I just want to say I look forward to eventually possibly working with you, and I'm happy that you'll be joining our team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Once again, welcome. Let's call the roll, please.
On item number 2, Commissioners Middleton,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes?
Markham,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
and Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Moving on, this is the trifecta this morning. Moving on to item number 3, Board of Commissioners, County Exec appointment. Director of Economic Development. I need a motion, please. Commissioner Gershenson, supported by Commissioner Markham. And I'm going to turn this over to our Deputy County Exec, Sean Carlson, to give us an overview and introduce our new director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. I'm not sure who's more excited, the candidates we're presenting to you or April or myself here today. So, anyways, I am very pleased to present to you County Executive Coulter's appointment to the Director of Economic Development, Ingrid Tai. Ingrid comes with a wealth of experience and knowledge. You all have her resume. Also was a combat vet as well, served overseas in the Army. But she has a wealth of experience in economic development, right person for the job at the right time. I will say that this was a very, the process, we had 110 applications. We went out on the street and competed. We had a recruiter help us with this process. We received applications from 3 continents. Europe and Africa also had candidates involved. We received candidates from over 8 states for this position. We narrowed the 110 down to 12 applicants who did video interviews. From there, we narrowed it down to 4 applicants who provided writing samples and then went on to do face-to-face interviews. Head and shoulders above those candidates was Ingrid, and very pleased to present her to this committee today as County Executive's appointment to the Economic Development Director position. Thank you.
So I'm going to say welcome, Ingrid. And do I have any questions or comments from the committee members? Wow. Ingrid, before we start that, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. As Sean said, I am really excited to be here. I'm in that crowd of very excited and honored to be here in front of you today. So thank you very much. So my background, I currently serve as the Executive Director of the Downtown Birmingham Shopping District. In that role, I work with all of our real estate brokers, our property owners and businesses, government officials and community leaders to promote downtown, downtown as the place to dine, to shop, to do business, to live, and for cultural activities. So that involves everything from working with our existing businesses, helping them with their expansion and growth. And then it also includes how do we attract new thriving businesses into our downtown community. So I have a great opportunity also to oversee events in the city, also maintenance and capital improvement projects. I helped manage with our engineering team and oversee 2 major construction projects in the last 4 years. If you've been through Birmingham, major infrastructure projects that went on downtown. So not an easy feat. And then of course, like you, we've all been navigating and helping our small businesses try to get through COVID. So not an easy task, and it's still tough, and we still have a long road ahead of us, but just working with them to try to help them to the best of our ability. And I've been fortunate to work with Sean and his team even more closely this past year, and appreciate all the assistance Oakland County has been giving our small businesses. Before working in downtown Birmingham, I worked for the state of Michigan. I worked for the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. I was a business development manager there. So I had the opportunity to work with companies and businesses all over Oakland County and all over Wayne County. In that role, I was working from small business development, also everything up into large businesses. So for instance, I worked and managed the attraction project of the Amazon Distribution Center to Livonia. That brought 1,500 jobs and about $50–60 million of investment into the state. So I have those relationships, those strong relationships with the state, still see and talk to a lot of those people today in my current role also. I also worked for the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. I was one of the first 10 employees when that agency was created under Governor Snyder when he came into office. So that offered me the unique opportunity to be part of their strategic planning. From scratch, we got to start at the beginning. I had the opportunity to work with the Department of Labor, Michigan Works, and many other agencies in the area of workforce development. I led that team to help employers learn how to attract and hire and retain top veteran talent in the state, and then also worked with those veterans who were transitioning from the military into the civilian workforce and teaching them and helping them navigate that process. As Sean mentioned, I'm also a combat veteran. Served for many years in the military overseas and stateside, and I think what that experience especially lends itself to this role is leadership. I had the opportunity to lead up to 60 soldiers at once, so I'm used to leading big teams. I love leading. That's probably my favorite thing to do. I'm a people person, so I'm excited to use that skill set. So I really feel strongly that my background in community and economic development, business development, workforce development are all coming together like a jigsaw puzzle in this role. So I'm really excited, and I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Okay, do I have any questions? Commissioner Middleton.
Yeah, Ingrid, how soon do you think, or how are we going to survive this pandemic crisis that we're in with small businesses? I don't think there's enough money in the county to be able to help these people get through it. I mean, we're going to lose a lot of small businesses. How are we going to adjust to that?
You're right. We have a really tough, 3 to 6 months ahead of us until we see widespread vaccination, and it's going to be tough. So I really think, like you said, it's initially helping with some of these grant opportunities to sort of plug the hole, if you will. But then we need to work in giving financial advice. How do we help stave them over? Working with our local leaders, state level, federal leaders to see where assistance might be coming through. It's going to take a village. And, for instance, an example of what we're doing in downtown Birmingham is how do we work with businesses? How do they pool their resources together and compete against people like Amazon? Can we do the last mile delivery locally by having our businesses work together? It's really working with them and identifying those pressure points. But it's going to be tough. And so I look forward to that challenge, and, we will continue to help them in all those different ways, working with the marketing, working also communicating with our residents on the importance of shopping local, supporting local, working with those things. So it's going to be a multifaceted approach that we're going to have to implement.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions, Commissioner Gershenson?
Welcome, Ingrid. I don't know if you remember that we worked together when I chaired the Women's Commission. We had an event for women's veterans, and you were one of our keynote speakers.
I do. I remember it fondly. It was a great event. It's nice to see you again.
It was, and I have followed your career because you were stellar as a speaker, and I really admire the work that you've done. Of course, the attraction and retention strategy is going to be critical as we move forward through these most difficult coming months. So I'm glad to see that you have statewide experience as well as local, and really understand our local units of government too. So look forward to working with you, Ingrid.
Thank you. Likewise.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, let's call the roll.
On item number 3, Commissioners Gershenson,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Koa,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Jack.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Item number 4, Board of Commissioners reallocation of coronavirus relief funds to create Oakland Together Restaurant Rescue Program. I need a motion, please. Commissioner McGillivray, supported by Commissioner Gershenson. And I'm going to welcome our Deputy County Exec again, Sean Carlson. Do you have anything to say?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nothing really new to report. I think the way just to look at this, resolution is it's really three facets. The first facet is in regards to using $7 million in CARES Act, and given the expiration of those funds being December 30th, of trying to provide some immediate relief to those restaurants that have dining in services. And so we already have those grant applications. We do not have enough time to put out a new grant. We don't have the bandwidth nor the time to be able to do that in less than 3 weeks. So we were taking all of those restaurants that put in a grant or put in an application, either for the stabilization grant that took place, as you know, back in April, or the recovery grant that took place in July and August, or the restart grant, which was also in July and August. And so we have about 1,000 restaurants that we're going through, and then what we will do is provide support and relief to those restaurants across the county, anywhere from $7,000 to $7,500, depends how many restaurants there are. Phase two, or I should say the second prong of this relief package, is a weatherization grant to support those restaurants in regards to getting outside dining facilities, whether they be heating lamps or igloos, if that's what you want to call them, that are out on the streets. Some restaurants have already purchased those as well. That is open to everyone, not just if you put in a previous grant application, but all restaurants. And then the third aspect is for reopening safely. PPE, any dollars or support that they need in regards to that. If you recall, if you visited a restaurant shortly before they were closed in November, most restaurants were handing out a piece of paper asking you to write your name and phone number on there for contact tracing. We are working with a software application company to automate that, to help us to reopen safely as well. So those are what the funds would be used for, those three phases. So thank you.
Commissioner McGilvray, and I do understand that there's an amendment too for this. Commissioner McGilvray.
Yeah, Sean, I have a question. Will people who received grants in the past get an opportunity to get another grant, or is this all new grantees that'll be receiving?
So this is anyone who received a stabilization grant, recovery grant, or restart grant. And so they might have received anywhere from $2,500 up to $10,000 through those three different grant processes. Those are, in the first prong, those are the companies that would be eligible for these dollars if they put in an application and were approved in the past. Does that make sense, Commissioner? Am I answering your question?
Yeah, I guess I would just like to see some of the folks that have not received a grant get something, if at all possible, over the others. But
yeah.
You know.
But the product of that, and the reason that is, just to be clear, is the funds are set to expire on the 30th. We do not have enough time to have a grant application come in and review and be able to distribute the money without it becoming, because it's not obligated according to the federal government, it's incurred. So the services or the support has to be incurred during that time period. So it's because of the time frame. If we had a longer runway on this, Commissioner, we would be opening up a new grant application process. But that is one of the reasons why we are looking at a phase, a second prong and a third prong, which is open to all restaurants, not just those that receive the grant. So I do want to make sure that that's understood. $7 million that deals with CARES is for those that put in a previous grant. The other $3 million is open to all restaurants.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I saw Commissioner Powell and followed by Commissioner Koa.
Will there be, Sean, do you know the amount that they will be granted, or would it vary? Do y'all have some type of scale where you're going to vary the amounts per recipient?
once we look at all of the dining locations, then we will take that $7 million, divide that by the number. Right now, it's looking like $7,000.
Okay, thank you so much, Sean.
Yes.
Commissioner Cole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Sean. I'm just thinking down the road a little bit, Sean, that this is a really great measure to be able to allow the restaurants to set up the whatever the patio heaters and whatnot. And but I'm thinking that a little bit down the road that I don't know what the expectation is of the different localities. Wouldn't they have to beyond, and we will be done with COVID one day soon, hopefully. Beyond that, then they have to go through, I guess, a process with their CVT in order to, get the whatever approval they need to have outdoor seating to keep that going. I'm hoping that CVTs will be more open-minded to that now because of what we've been through, but it seems like we're kind of going through all this, excuse me, and spending a lot of money, but for something that at the end of the day, I guess might get us through a few months. So I don't know, I agree with what we're doing, but I just hope that maybe it has a little bit more long-term benefits than just the immediate crisis that we're in.
Yeah.
Can you answer that? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do my best to answer it. The weatherization grant and the Reopen Safely, we will be coordinating with the 22 local chambers of commerce, as well as the DDAs and the cities, villages, and townships in regards to working closely with them and what makes sense. So it's very important in order for this to be successful and they even have more sustainability long run, needs to make sure that their hand is involved in this process as well. So we will be working closely with the DDAs and the local chambers in regards to their restaurants in their communities.
Thank you.
Are there, Commissioner Markham?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sean, the weatherization grants, that's a separate grant program and it hasn't opened yet. Is that correct?
That is correct. Like I was just saying, we're working with the DDAs and the local chambers in regards to partnering with them. That will be general fund dollars, not CARES funding. So that will not expire until March 31st. So that will give us a longer runway, both that and the Reopen Safely. So.
Okay. You anticipated opening, did I hear the 15th of December?
Yes, we are working to make sure that we have some information ready to go in regards to those weatherization grants. There are a lot of folks that have DDAs and companies that have approached us on the igloos and so forth. And we've been coordinating a massive purchase with Home Depot. I don't want to say massive, but 100,000 plus in regards to being able to buy that in bulk in order to drive the pricing down so that we can support the restaurants and make sure that we're stretching our dollars as far as they can go.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Gershenson.
Well, thank you, Sean. And so just to reiterate, because there was a lot of confusion about restaurants receiving money if they had not applied before. So it's just the COVID money that's going to expire. And that decision was that just wasn't enough time to open it up to every restaurant again. But I'm really proud of our administration for putting forth the additional $3 million from our general fund. So that doesn't have the same restrictions as the COVID money. And that will go through March for new applicants as well.
Yeah, that's correct. We were looking at different funding sources, but we know that there were some restaurants that for whatever reason did not apply for those 3 different grants. And we just wanted to make sure that we were including some of those that did not put in a previous application. So we did try to carve out $3 million to make sure that we were supporting them as well.
Any other questions about this? Yes, Pam.
Madam Chair, did you want the amendment to be, we'll
We
need
get there. When the amendment's going to be introduced after we do initially some questions. But Sean, I have one question. So I've heard from a restaurant that did not apply for our previous grants and is hanging in there barely. Is there anything else? You know, I explained the two things. Is there any other suggestion that you have for these restaurants that are not eligible for this funding? Any other ideas out there to help them?
We had contemplated that prior to developing this program, and it was that thought in mind that we created those other two prongs to be able to try to support those who may not have put in an application. I don't have really, I mean, there is a weatherization grant that I think is run by the Michigan Small Business Association that's out there right now. There could be some other MEDC grants, but most of those are lapsing as well because they're COVID related. I guess I would say is we'll keep our fingers crossed that we get an extension on the time period from 12/30. Some are talking now that the congressional leaders are discussing that, possibly it could be moved to April 30th, but we don't know. So we've been operating under the premise of 12/30. So I don't really have any direct answer for that other than to say we contemplated those other two aspects of the program, the weatherization and the reopen safely dollars.
Thank you. I said I would ask, so I appreciate it. We do have an amendment to this, and I'm going to ask Chris Ward to put it up on the screen so we can see it. And I can introduce the amendment. So, Chris, do you want to put it up? Okay, and Chris, do you want to speak to this amendment?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
We've got 4 things here. One is typographical and grammar issues. 2, incorporating the budget amendment. 3, this was brought up during the pandemic committee, is there was no oversight committee included in this, and so we're suggesting to add the new coordinating committee that is being created with the other resolution that's going through about expenditure of the remaining CARES Act funds. And then there was a concern that was brought up by Commissioner Kuhn, and I'll try to get down to that one, about reporting, and it simply just changes it so that there are regular reports provided to the board, and then a final report after 30 days of the end of the program. That's down here at the 6, be it further resolved. So that is the intent of all of these clauses for an amendment. I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has.
So I'm going to move the amendment. I need a second, please. Commissioner Kowal. And are there questions about this amendment? And let me say that Deputy County Exec Sean Carlson supports these changes. We got a thumbs up. So any questions about the amendment? Let's call the roll, please.
On the amendment, Commissioners Quarles? Commissioner Quarles? On the amendment? I'll come back. Powell?
Pass.
Oh, okay. Long?
Yes.
Kowal?
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Zach.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 5. Human Resources Department.
Just, we need a motion as
Oh, I-
amended.
I'm sorry, I'm moving on too fast. I need any discussion on the resolution as amended. Seeing none, let's call the roll on the actual resolution. Thank you.
Okay, the resolution as amended, McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Koa,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Zach.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Just a note to Commissioner Long, if you want to speak up, please, because I can't see you to call on you.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Okay.
If I put my camera on, I lose internet.
Okay, but I don't want to ignore you, so thank you.
No, I will speak up. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 5, Human Resources Department, COVID-19 Temporary Emergency Leave Policy Extension. I need a motion, please. Commissioner Powell, supported by Commissioner Gershenson. And we have Deputy County Exec April Lynch with us.
Thank you. As you know, back in April, we put out a policy allowing for some flexibility as it relates to benefits and flexible leave policies that allowed folks to navigate COVID in a way they saw fit without feeling in jeopardy that they needed to lose their job and or their benefits. Obviously, the case numbers are still high. We still have issues with kids in school, and so we are requesting an extension until March 31st. A couple things have been adjusted. The FMLA does expire at the end of this month. And unless the federal government implements it again for January, that one will expire, but the remaining options that our employees have are still there, which is they can take their own time, take time off, create flexible schedules, as long as it works within their department. Right now, we have about 57 of our employees who are on FMLA and about 20 that borrowed and used the flexible leave policies. I think the others are working through how they're handling and navigating their family obligations with their department. So I think having another extension to the end of March 31st would be the best interest for our employees.
Any questions or comments? April, I do want to say thank you for all of your creativity and flexibility to support our employees through this unprecedented time.
Thank you.
So thank you. Let's call the roll, please.
On item number 5, Commissioners Powell,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Koa,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Zach.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion carries. Moving on to item number 6. Human Resources Department, fiscal years 2021, 22, 23, 24, collective bargaining agreement for employees represented by the United Auto Workers Local 889, representing clerk, Register of Deeds supervisory employees. I need a motion. Commissioner McGillivray, supported by Commissioner Gershenson. And April?
Sure. So as you know, last year, our board approved a card check, which allowed a little more flexibility for folks to join unions within the organization. I'm proud to say that UAW is our first new union that was formed since Card Check. So we started working with them in August of this year to look at a new contract. This covers about 14 people currently in the clerk's office that are all in some type of supervisor role. So this is our first supervisors union as well. I did a high-level overview as it relates to non-economics, and then I drilled down a little bit more into economics for the board. Many of the policies are going to be aligned with our merit rules, and there are other wordings in there that are very similar to the other unions, and I will be presenting in January. I will submit for receive and file a full contract when it's been executed. But I thought I would just take a minute and go over the high-level economic pieces of this contract. It is a 4-year contract. It ends on September 30th, 2024. Wages that were implemented are based on the compensation study that has been discussed. We have a 1% equity bonus paid upon contract approval, which again is very similar to what we did with the non-union folks. For the next 3 years following, fiscal year 22, 23, and 24, they have a 1% wage increase with the Me Too for general increases, which has been pretty much the norm with all of the other unions as well, well, most of them anyway. So that's the piece on the salary. On the benefit side of things, as you know, we had talked about creating a healthcare task force. They've agreed to participate on that. They've also agreed to entertain any changes during the life of their contract. We did put a cap on there on the amount, which I was in agreement with. For about to not exceed over $1,000, and I think we all talked about during my presentation to finance that many of the changes to the benefits are going to be small, gentle tweaks. So I felt very comfortable with that information. We did agree to increase the wellness program payment from $100 to $150. Friendly reminder: our wellness payment is when you get a physical or get a blood work. It helps frame some of the management control that we're having over, diseases and things of that nature. And so it's an incentive for all of our employees to go and get that done. We also agreed to increase their defined contribution match from $500 to $1,500 per year. And that's a voluntary basis for them. And then the other thing that we did was increase their death leave to 5 days only for a spouse, parent, or child. So those are the high-level overviews. Again, this is a supervisors group. There's about 14 folks in this union. They ratified on Thursday.
Questions? Commissioner Markham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't really have a question. I just want to say that I'm pleased that you worked with the clerk's office and with this union to come to a resolution that everybody's comfortable with. I'm really happy to see this. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, let's call the roll, please.
On item number 6, Commissioners Long,
Yes.
Cowell,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Zach.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion carries. We are moving on to, which is now item number 7, the presentation of the Water Resources Commissioner, Oakland County Lake Level Control Structure Review. And I need a motion to receive and file this information. Commissioner Cowell, supported by Commissioner Markham. And I want to welcome who's going to present today.
Yeah, good morning.
Thanks,
Good morning.
Mike.
I'm Mike McMahon. I'm the chief engineer over the unit at the Water Resources Commissioner's Office that oversees maintenance of our drains and lake levels. And Ryan is here as well with me. It was probably the one that spent most of the time preparing this report and did a substantial amount of field work. And we're going to share his screen as we go through the PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to just kind of kick it off and then turn it over to Ryan So again, thank you for this opportunity to present the report to you. Ryan, you can go to the next slide. So just an overview of what we're going to talk about. We're going to give you a little background on what led to the creation of this report, where we obtained our information from as far as on the dams themselves. Talk a little bit about the ownership of the dams that we identified. And these dams are regulated at a state level, so we're going to quickly look at the regulations that govern the dams in Oakland County, and which isn't all of the dams. And then we'll spend a little time looking in detail at the regulated dams versus the unregulated dams. So a little bit on background. As everybody recalls, back in May of this year, there was a catastrophic failure of a couple of dams in the Midland, Michigan area. It's reported that between the Edenville and Sanford dams, that there was between $175 and $200 million worth of damage, besides all the inconvenience and aggravation it caused to the residents in that area. And really, it was a result of a number of factors. Ownership issues played into it, the lack of maintenance, lack of oversight by the regulatory authorities, and a failure to make needed repairs. So with that, it brings up the question in a lot of people's mind, because I think we were all shocked when we heard about this and saw the pictures. And if you drove by to see an empty lake bottom, it was pretty disturbing. The question obviously came up, hey, in Oakland County, what's our situation? What do we have? So that's really what brought about the Board of Commissioners resolution that was passed that directed our office to prepare a report that would look at what dams we have in Oakland County and then comment on their condition, what repairs were required. And so this is our initial report. The resolution asks that we come back annually with a report giving an update. And so I guess with that, I'll talk a little bit about where we obtain our information. Like I said, the dams that are regulated at the state level. They have compiled a lot of information, not just on the regulated dams, but they have a big GIS database of information, which they were willing to share with us. Among the information they have are dam inspection reports, and that would include the structures that WRC operates and maintains and owns. And so those reports were on the regulated dams. There was also some that were reports were missing and or did not have reports at all because the unregulated dams, there's no requirement for that. So Ryan did a fair amount of field investigation to go and actually get his eyes on a lot of these structures. In all, we came up with 138 documented dams in the county at this time, and that's subject to change as others are identified or come online. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan. He's going to go into a little detail about exactly what we did find and what we have to report on.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, commissioners. We're going to start off just kind of looking at the ownership of the dams. This gives us an idea of where we might have funding or lack of funding to maintain these structures. As you can tell, the majority of the dams, about 80%, are private or are local government. So that funding is going to come somewhere within the county to maintain these and inspect them. From there, when you look at the regulations of how these dams are regulated within Michigan, you have two different laws that regulate the dams. Part 307 is the dams that are maintained by Oakland County WRC. They have a court order, and we maintain the dams and make sure that they're inspected in a timely manner. The second part of that is Part 315. This is dam safety. To be regulated under this, the lake has to be of a substantial size, that's to have 6 foot of water behind it and at least 5 acres. We've got about 92 dams that fall into this category that have required inspection cycles. And then there's about 46 that there is no inspection required on the dam. So That gives you an idea that those dams aren't as hazardous because they don't meet the requirements of water impoundment. All dams that are regulated are required to have a hazard classification associated with them. The majority of the dams in Oakland County are low hazard, so these are fairly small dams. As part of that, the low hazard, they have no potential loss of life should it fail, and minor impacts downstream and upstream. The significant hazard dams, there is a potential for loss of life downstream and significant damage downstream. And then finally, the high hazard structures, we do expect to see loss of life should it fail with severe impact downstream. Also, as part of the regulated dams, a condition assessment is required as part of the inspection process. This gives us an idea on a consistent basis as to where the structures are at. This is all based off of the potential for potential for failure of the dam. Nothing cosmetic is necessarily in there. So if satisfactory means that there is no existing or potential dam safety issues, and it's expected to perform under all loading conditions except fair condition. They're expected to perform under all loading conditions as well, but there might be some minor repairs that need to be made or possible studies to ensure that it is still going to perform under all conditions. And then lastly, you have poor. This means a dam safety issue has been identified and repairs need to take place on the structure. There are some structures that are not rated. As Mike noted, there are some structures that do not have inspections, or their inspections are so far out of date that they never made it into the state's GIS. Moving on to the private dams owned by non-governmental agencies. As you can see, the majority are low hazard dams with a few significant and high hazard dams in this section. Note that all of these significant and high hazard dams are satisfactory. This is a section we're going to continue to work with homeowners on to get the missing and overdue reports into the state of Michigan to make sure that we are able to monitor the dams effectively. On to the dams that are owned by other public CVTs or entities. As you can tell, they're a little bit better in getting their inspections completed. We do have a fair amount of low hazard dams here as well. And then looking at the significant and high hazard dams, the majority of them are in fair or better condition, with the exception of one dam. That one dam is rated in poor condition. That is our Holly Dam up in Holly, Michigan. It is owned by the village of Holly. It is a much older dam. It was built about 100 years ago. They are working with an engineer at this point to get it repaired. Just to put it into perspective, compared to Midland, it's about 30 times smaller than the dams up in Midland. So the impact downstream would be significantly less than what was up in Midland. Like I said, they are working. I visited out there actually recently just to get eyes on it myself, as it is one that is in poor condition or listed as poor condition. They're working toward getting it repaired. They've removed the old powerhouse. They've removed a bunch of trees on the embankment and are working with a contractor to continue to make repairs and get that up into satisfactory condition. Now into the dams owned by WRC. As you can tell, we don't have any missing reports or overdue reports. Most of our dams, just like the remaining, are in satisfactory or fair condition. All of our significant and high are in satisfactory or fair condition. We do have one structure that is in poor condition. This happens to also be up in Holly, Sir Bevins Lake Dam. It is a low hazard dam. We are working on getting it redesigned and rebuilt. We have been working on that for the last few years. As you can tell, there's a minimal amount of water that this dam holds back, and there is no risk downstream or upstream as part of this project as we work to get it rebuilt. And then finally, we move on to the unregulated or inventory structures. As you can note, the majority of these are in private hands. The main thing with these is that there is no inspection report required for them. And as such, we need to either get eyes on them to kind of get an idea of where they're at. As they are not regulated, they do have a minimal amount of impact in either both upstream or downstream. The biggest impact could potentially be to home values should a structure fail. You may have had 5, 10 waterfront homes that might not necessarily be waterfront anymore. Kind of in conclusion, overall, the dams are in satisfactory condition within Oakland County. Among those that were not in satisfactory condition, there were no structures that we identified to pose an immediate or significant threat to downstream property owners. WRC will continue to make efforts to follow up with homeowners and CVTs to ensure that inspection and repairs are completed and those are provided to the state. And with that, I'd like to...
Hey, Ryan, if I could just jump in. One thing you didn't mention was the fact that all significant and high hazard dams also require an emergency action plan. And those are all on file with the state for all of the significant high. There's no missing emergency action plans, which is good news because that's what's used in case something were to happen, who to notify, who the parties involved are. So those are all in place as well.
Thank you, Mike. And with that, I'd like to open up discussion and questions.
Are there any questions? Thank you so much for your presentation. Any questions? I have Commissioner Kowal, followed by Commissioner Gershenson.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Water Resources Department for this really comprehensive report. I'm very happy about the information that we received on this. Two things. One, I guess, is what do you base your emergency plans on? Is it based on a 100-year rain, or is it based on more than that? Also, I guess I would like to see that this report is shared with all the other commissioners as well as sent to all the CVTs in Oakland County. And if anybody can think of anybody else that should have this, then I'd appreciate it if they'd weigh in. But I do have one gentleman in White Lake that's particularly concerned about the Pontiac Lake Dam. And I just want to make sure that that we're protected, and what you base your emergency plans on, or what you consider to be a trigger point for causing some kind of a disaster, whether it's 100-year rain, 300-year rain, or whatever. Thank you.
So the emergency action plan flooding map, which I'm assuming what you're asking about, is based off of the hazard classification. So Pontiac specifically is a 200-year flood. We are working to update our EAP maps and the flooding maps as part of something we were starting at the beginning of this year. So we will be mapping out to 500-year with that update.
Wow, thank you very much. That's good news. Appreciate the comprehensive report and the fact that you're following up on things and that you'll be keeping tabs on this as we go forward. Thank you.
Commissioner Cole, we will also post this report on our website too, but we can certainly, see that it's distributed to the CVTs as well.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
I'm going to call Commissioner Gershenson, followed by Commissioner Middleton.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. We really appreciate this. This is putting us ahead of any problems. Certainly, we would hate for something to happen, and we hadn't gotten an update. I had a question. Are we responsible? Is the county responsible for examining the private dams as well as the government dams?
At the WRC level, we're only responsible for our own dams. Individual CVTs or property owners are responsible for their dams. As part of this request, we looked at all of them, and that was funded through WRC's budget internally to do that review.
But we have no jurisdiction over any of the private dams then?
We do not. The state is the only one that has any kind of jurisdiction over them. And as part of the original resolution, it was noted that Oakland County suggests to the state to provide additional funding and resources to that department, as there was only 2 people in that department reviewing all of the dams in Michigan.
And related to the high risk category and potential loss of life, that was a little frightening. What those dams that are in that category with the potential loss of life, are we fixing those? Are those prioritized as being addressed immediately or soon?
So none of those dams are in poor condition. The risk factor only applies to them because should it fail, there is that potential. There is only one that is in poor condition. That's the one up in Holly that I spoke about, where the village is working on it year after year to make improvements.
So the category where you said high risk loss of life, that potential is only if something catastrophic happens, or?
Should it fail, yes, but that doesn't have anything to do with the condition of the dam.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and now I have Commissioner Middleton.
Yes, I'm from Clarkston, and the Clarkston Mill Pond Dam. And if that failed, then the lake structure at Middle Lake, there's no houses hardly involved in between that area. So then the structure at Middle Lake, which is a WRC water level dam, that would cause that to fail. The domino effect going down, how is that factored into the potential danger of these dams? Whoops.
As far as aware, that is not factored into the potential danger of these dams. As part of some of our EAP studies, we will be looking at that in a specific chain that is owned by us, to be the Pontiac, Cedar Island, and Oxbow. In terms of your area, I do not believe there is anything factored into the risk factor for the dam. I can look into it and get you a better answer to that if it is.
Okay, and I think we're having a Mill Pond meeting coming up pretty quick, so I appreciate it. JC is handling that. If she, let her know, and it'll come up at our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have any other questions? Commissioner Markham.
Again, I don't have a question, but I just have a couple of comments. I'm really glad this report has been done, and I want to thank Commissioner Kowal for starting the ball rolling on this. I think the residents of Oakland County can be very comfortable that we're not going to have a problem like they had up there in Midland. I think it's a really great example of why we have a professional organization at the county with experts who know what they're doing and know what they're looking at to really advise us as to where we should be going. And I'm convinced that if there were a dam that they felt was a potential hazard for all of us and something that needed to be dealt with, it would be brought forward, because we now know the condition of all of the water control structures all across the county. And so I'm really glad this has been done. I think it's a great use of taxpayer dollars, and I'm thankful that the Water Resources Commission, or Water Resources Office, did such a comprehensive report. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? And again, I want to thank Commissioner Kowal for bringing this up and asking to have a review before us, to have this report. So thank you. Let's call the roll to receive this information, please.
You want roll call or voice vote?
Let's just do a voice vote if I could do that. All those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Let's move on. Now we are at item number 8, Board of Commissioners compensation adjustments for elected officials. And the resolution is blank. I need a motion to consider this matter. Commissioner Markham, and I need support, Commissioner McGilvray. So let me set the stage for this one. So historically, during our budget hearings, the Human Resources Committee discusses salary raises and brings that number to the Finance Committee for approval as part of budget wrap-up. This year, we did not do that because we were waiting for the compensation study to be settled. And so we left it an unfinished agenda item. So now we have a compensation study, and we need to close this item out before the end of the year. So our compensation study before the employees, we are doing a 2-step increase, and that is for employees an average of a 3.16% increase for employee salaries. So for those of you traditionally, and there are several people at the table now, we have to vote on all of the elected official salaries except the county commissioners every year. And then the county commissioners, we set their salary at the end of a term before a new term starts. We can't vote on our existing salaries during the term that we're serving. So historically, it's never comfortable to vote on your own salary increase. But what we did previously is that we stayed parallel with other employees. And there were many years during 2008 to 2009, 10, where frankly, we took salary decreases. So we went with whatever we were doing with the employees. And so that's the precedent that is before us. So I'm not coming in here, saying we're doing a 2%, a 1%. It's really up to discussion for us to look at different salary ranges. So I would like to address the elected salaries, the electeds first, and then move into the county commission. So the electeds being the countywide elected sheriffs, county exec, so forth. Additionally, I looked at the comparable salaries amongst Wayne and Macomb. And our countywide elected officials do have a higher salary than our counterparts. Yet at the same time, there's cost of living raises, and whether we should increase them maybe 1% a year for cost of living. So I'm throwing it out to to members. What are your thoughts? Commissioner Gershenson.
Okay, I always have some thoughts. So our county exec has said that he is not looking for an increase. Did you say we do this every year? We do the
every year we do the regular countywide elected officials, And then there is the option, and this has happened, that if there is an increase, then elected officials, there's precedent, have decided to decline that increase as well. So
Right, but
that,
they have to donate it. They can't, they have to take it. It goes in their check. They can donate it. You can't decline.
correct.
We went
Well,
through
right.
this for sure.
Correct. Okay, yes.
So, you know, my recommendation or my thoughts are either nothing or 1%.
Okay, do you want to do that as a, okay, let's discuss and then we'll decide a
Yeah.
number. Okay, other thoughts? I see Commissioner Middleton.
Yes, what number are we on? I don't see anything for elected officials, non-commissioned.
Okay, so it was item number 7 on our agenda.
Okay, but it talks about chairman of the board, vice chairman of the board.
Above that,
Those-
Tom. It's above that. It's the first, now therefore be it resolved.
Okay,
It
okay, I
wasn't
found it now.
defined.
And the Gurchison is recommending a 1% or 0. Is that what I?
And I'm just opening it up for us to talk about.
Yeah, okay. And I would, this isn't really an amendment. How do
It's
we
not an
handle-
amendment. It's part of the resolution where we will insert it.
I would recommend a 0% there. Just in today's meeting, we spent 67,000 for the unionization of the clerk's office. We spent, when we talked about opening restaurants again, that's got to come out of general fund. The weatherization and reopening, that's $3 million. And we're just touching on the problems that were brought up on restaurants and how to help them survive through this pandemic. So for those reasons, I would recommend a 0 there. Thank you.
Commissioner Markham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Commissioner Gershensen's first statement. It is always hard to give ourselves a raise in public. This first part, we're talking about the other electeds, but I think the same thing applies. These are real jobs. These are people working really hard in their jobs. And they are budgeted for. And so I don't think it's unreasonable to expect that the elected officials track with the entire county compensation package. However, this being a very difficult time across the board, I think in the spirit of sacrifice for everyone, I think a smaller amount, like the 1% member or Commissioner Gershensen recommended, would serve those purposes. If every time there's a financial issue looming out there in public, public officials weren't allowed to get reasonable compensation and, you know, reasonable increases as others do, it's not fair. It does not help get good people into these positions, and it doesn't adequately compensate the work that is done. So I want our public to understand that we do recognize the sacrifice that everybody else is making, but your leadership deserves to be compensated as well. So I would support a smaller number than the 3%, but I don't think at any time we should be taking 0%, because I think it sets a bad precedent that our work is not valued long term. Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to say I altered the order. This is actually the third for further be it resolved that we are now discussing the number for the county exec, prosecuting attorney, county clerk, register of deeds, water resources commissioner, sheriff, and county treasurer. And that is our discussion first, and then we will move on to the Board of Commissioners. So I'm going to recognize Commissioner Powell.
I want to say that I do agree with my colleagues here in regards to our concerns in regards to the pay increases. One thing that's stretched that seems to be way more important is it's COVID. And that is a serious situation right now for us, and everybody's sacrificing. So it's even with our leadership. So I am for whatever increases were in place. So anything that was automatically to already happen, anything that we talked about above that, I think if we can move it to next year, that will be my opinion. I'm not educated enough about that process of when the increases will happen. So I would just suggest that whatever was automatically to happen, be it COVID is here, that those increases be allowed, or anything up above what we were trying to change or increase, I am not for that now. Thank you.
Let me clarify for you, Commissioner Powell. There is, historically, we did the Me Too. Whatever what was happening for employees, we carried over into the electeds. So there is no recommended amount right now if we want to assume the 3.16% average, which is what the employees are getting, that would be the number. But so that, that's an average, so there's less. So we don't have an exact figure to go on that's automatic. Okay, other questions or comments?
Commissioner Zach, I do. Chris Long.
Please do.
I was wondering, not to put him on the spot, but Commissioner Gershenson said that Dave Coulter kind of didn't care one way or the other, paraphrasing, about a raise or not. But what are the other elected officials? Did anyone else talk to the sheriff and the clerk, and what were their thoughts?
I have not. I heard the same thing from County Exec Dave Coulter, but I have not had a conversation with the other elected, so I can't speak for them.
Okay, and 1% for anyone isn't very much. I mean, it gets to be when you have a higher salary than commissioners, 1% add up a little bit, but it's not a lot. It's almost like getting 0% up, almost. So I just want to hear what everyone else thinks. I don't really know where I stand on this yet, and I know we have to vote pretty soon. So I'd like to hear from some more commissioners if I could.
I'm going to recognize Commissioner Colwell.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. Like people have said, there's never a good time or a good way to do this. And the COVID and what everybody's been going through makes it all that much harder. But I would say that our countywide elected officials have really had to work, especially, it's a new administration, and then the other countywides, the sheriff, the clerk's office, obviously, and everybody's really had to step up to the plate during this whole pandemic. So I would take that into consideration, and rather than just a flat salary, I think I would be comfortable with 1%. I think that gives a nod to the fact that we realize that the economic conditions that are as a result of COVID, but also the fact that these are real jobs, as Commissioner Markham said, and people have had to work, I think, day and night throughout this pandemic, and I'm sure they will be for a good long while, or for a while going forward. So I think I'd be comfortable with the 1%.
Commissioner McGilvray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I agree with Commissioner Kowal and Markham. I think that looking at the comparison of the county-wides against Wayne and Macomb counties, we are considerably higher. So I would think that a 1%, only for the fact of cost of living more than anything else, they're due at least that. So, but other than that, I wouldn't go any higher than 1%.
Any other comments? I'm hearing that there are Commissioner Quarles. You're on mute, please.
I just want to be clear, what we're voting on is the county-wide increase, and then we'll come back and vote for the county commissioners.
We're doing yes. We are separating out the further results.
Okay, and the other thing, the range, the possible range is from 0 to 3%, or is it 3.5%?
Well, the average employee increase is 3.16%, so it's not 3.5. It's closer to 3.
Okay, thank you for the clarity.
Okay, so I'm hearing from several of you that 1% for the countywide elected officials is what you would like to recommend that we should vote on. Does that make yes? Yeah. Okay. So yes, Commissioner Middleton. Yes.
Yes, this is for 2021. Can the Board of Commissioners vote in December of 21 for 22? Or does this have to for the general electeds? Or does this have to be for 21 and 22?
So for the general electeds, we can vote on their increase per year, 1 year, okay? The Board of Commissioners, it has to be the 2 years. We can't address that separately. So technically, we are doing a 1%, doing a 1% vote for this budget year for the countywide electeds, and then their salary will be looked at again the following, next summer, voted on next September of 2021.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner McGilvray.
I would be willing to make a motion if that's what you need.
I would love that.
For a 1% increase for the county-wides for year 2021.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Commissioner Gershenson. Okay, any discussion about that? Okay, I'm wondering procedurally, Pam, do I need to vote on that separately, or we're just as an amendment to this?
Yeah, each amendment will need a roll call.
That's an amendment to the resolution. Okay. Instead of, it's an amendment, Gary. Do you accept that? Okay. So let's call the roll. Any discussion on this amendment? Let's call the roll on the amendment for a 1% salary increase for the countywide countywide electeds.
Commissioners Middleton,
No.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gillibrand,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Colwell,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Zia.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 8 yeas and 1 nay.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to the Board of Commissioners. Now, the first, now therefore be it resolved, the Oakland County Board of Commissioners authorizes blank percent adjustment in compensation for the members of the Board of Commissioners affected at the commencement. So, again, let me just reiterate that we cannot change the Board of Commissioners' salary next year. Whatever we vote on is going to stay for the 2-year period, and we can separate out the amount. We can do one amount for the, this year, nothing for the second year, or we can do one for this year, one for the following year. So, comments, Commissioner Gershenson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I would like to break down this into real numbers. As has been stated, this is a very difficult, uncomfortable thing. I think if we could change the way this happened, that would be great too. But just in terms of understanding, at this point, our commissioner's salary is $36,853. If we were to take a 1% increase, it would be an additional $368.53 per year. That's $30 a paycheck. If we were to take a 2%, it would be double. It would be double the 368. And if we were to take a 3%, it would be approximately $1,000 per year. So I just wanted to put into perspective the dollars that we're talking about, from 0 to 1% of 368, 2% is an additional 368, and 3% is an additional 368. So at the bottom line, you're looking at 0. At number 1, you're looking at $368.50 a year, which is approximately $30 a paycheck, up to about $90 a paycheck at 3%. So I think it's important to understand the actual dollars, because when you talk about a raise, the terrible publicity, in addition to how hard the executives, our team has worked, we all know how hard we have worked as well. So I just wanted to throw out the reality, and also, we can do a 0, we can do a 1% in 2021, and we can bring us up to employees, which traditionally we've always done in 22. So if you wanted to start with a 1 or a 1.5, and you wanted to, in 22, you wanted to do the other 1.5, or any way you felt it was fair, I again just want to start the discussion and see where everybody stands.
Would commissioners like to see those numbers on the screen? Would that be helpful? Because I can ask Chris Ward to put it up for you. Anybody want to see it? Okay. I'm going to recognize Commissioner Middleton.
Yes, just a clarification to Marcia's comments. We have 26 pay periods a year rather than just 13. So,
right.
So at 30, you have to cut in half. That makes your argument even better.
Right, $15 a paycheck then, yeah.
Okay. That's all I had, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Okay, so no one wants to see the numbers. Okay. Commissioner Marco.
I think it makes some sense to be consistent with what we're recommending to the countywides, a 1% for this year, but look at either a 1% next year or bring us up to the employee level next year. I would like to see us, take the hit this year, because this is when the crisis is happening, but give us an opportunity to move up again after 1 year, which is not normal because of the way we normally allocate raises to ourselves over a 2-year period.
Commissioner Zach,
So
put me on the list, please.
Wait, are you proposing, Gwen, a 1% this year and then a 2% the second year?
Madam Chair, can I just
if we're talking
clarify one
purposes,
thing?
Sure. Wait,
I just
What
want
did
to
you say?
clarify one thing. One would be running with the calendar year, and I think traditionally we would do the second year at the beginning of the fiscal year next year. So
Okay,
make sure that's your intent.
yes, thank you.
I'll throw it out there at 1% and then 2%, but I'd be comfortable at 1% and 1% over the next 2 years. But I'll move, I guess, that we go 1%, 2% and let people talk about it.
Okay, other discussions? Before we actually do a formal amendment, any other?
I have
comment?
something.
Okay, Commissioner Long, followed by Commissioner McGilvray.
Sorry that I don't have my camera, but my internet's staying on. So, I'm apt. I believe this is really hard for all of us and stuff. And I do believe the cost of living, I find things much more expensive. And I realize that during COVID, people were out of jobs and many people on unemployment. And I understand that. However, the cost of living, I think things are more expensive right now when you go to the store and stuff. And I think we're all finding that. I am kind of thinking that if we, on Gwen's thing, I would kind of think like maybe nothing the first year and 1% the second year. I was just thinking if we took nothing this year, it's not much money for any of us. And I get Gwen's point also. So I'm not sure where I'm going to go with this as I wasn't on the last one. But I was tending to think maybe we could do nothing this year just because of COVID and stuff, and maybe 1% the second year. Just a thought. I wanted to hear other people's.
Okay, any other comments here? Commissioner McGilvray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I looked at the comparables with the other counties. Wayne County gets considerably more over what we do. Plus they have cars and staff that for each commissioner and things like that. And I really believe that we deserve a 3% increase the first year, 0 the second. And the reason I say that is just to bring us in comparison. And I think all of you know that we've taken on a whole lot more as a Board of Commissioners than we did in the past. Working with the county executive to try to bring our county around so that we're in good shape. So I would go with 3% the first year, 0 the second year.
Thank you. Other comments? I had Commissioner Quarles next.
I apologize. I wasn't raising my hand to speak.
I thought you were. Okay.
I have one more thing, Commissioner Zach, whenever it's my turn again.
Please do. I'm going to call you Commissioner Long, followed by Commissioner Kowal.
Well, as Commissioner McGilvray was saying, I realize I think, and Commissioner McGilvray can confirm this if he looked up, that we are the least paid commissioners. And I was speaking with Commissioner Kowal the other day, and I think people think we get phones. We have staff that comes around with us because many of our invites will say, send a staff member. I said, it would be me or no one. We don't have staff that we have, go around to meetings and stuff for us. It's us. And so I don't know if the general public realizes we do not get cell phones. We do not get paid for our cell phone use. We all use our personal cell phone, our internet now at home and stuff that we don't get. Well, at least I don't. Maybe I'm missing something. But I think we all spend our own money a lot on all these other things. We don't have a lot of perks. I'm not saying I love it. I think it's good pay, fair pay. But I do want to just comment on that. If any public is watching, that we do not get perks as of cars, phones, bills, internet, and this and that. So I just want to make that clear so the public knows that we do not get all those things. Thank you.
I want to clarify that my understanding is that we could get a cell phone, a county cell phone if we chose. And I think some people have chosen that. That's my understanding, but many of us do not. So
Thank you. I just didn't even know, and I don't want one, but a lot of us don't. So I think it's different than other counties. As Commissioner McGilvery said, some get cars, some get this, and a lot more perks. So thank you.
we are very different than the other counties. So I have Commissioner Kowal next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'd be hesitant on who we're comparing ourselves with. Wayne County has, it's in statute, I believe, that they receive 90% of whatever the state legislature receives as far as salary goes. And but I think it's been correctly stated that they do have cars and offices, and I think they have a direct staff, each of them. But I would consider looking around to a lot of more of the commissioners in the state that don't have a county elected an executive position, and they are really largely a lot more on the they do hire county managers, but they bear a lot more of the responsibility for running their county. So I just would caution about using comparisons, I guess, in that regard. And I do believe that you can't increase your salary during a term, but you can decrease it, which was done in the past. So I'm kind of the mind of starting out with a 0%, and then maybe going with the 2% next year, the second year, or 2, or I don't really know if I can go with 3, but if things are still, hopefully things will be better by then. But if for some reason they're not, we could always come back and amend, change that to be a lesser amount or 0 once again. So I just like to throw that out there that because the other county-wides work for the people too, but we're the body that kind of really represents our districts and represents more directly the people of Oakland County, I believe. So I think out of understanding empathy for what everybody's going through, I think the 0% for this year and perhaps something for the following year. And I'm open to that. Thank you.
Any more discussion? I'm going to yes, Commissioner Gershenson.
Well, we haven't heard from everyone, which I'd really like to, but based on what everyone has said, I'm thinking of a 1% this year to keep us in line with our electeds, and a 2% in 2022.
Is that an amendment?
No, I'd like to hear some reaction to that first.
Okay. Any comments on that proposal? Commissioner Quarles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess the discussion is really centered around it's difficult for you to give yourself a raise. Haven't been in this position before, not only here at the county.
You're on mute now, Commissioner Quarles. Commissioner Quarles, you went on mute.
Nancy, you're on mute.
You're on mute. Commissioner Quarles, you're on mute. You're on mute.
It looks so good, too.
I know, it was interesting.
It looks so good. She was so into it.
Start over, Nancy.
Oh, you gotta be kidding. Yeah.
I said it looked so good too, but we couldn't hear a thing.
Nothing.
No? Oh, wow. Oh, I didn't forget what shucks. In a nutshell, I know it's say I gave a very logical argument. Now I'm just going to say what I know it's very difficult to always give yourself a raise, be it, and particularly as an elected official, knowing that we're public servants. The thing that I want to keep in mind is, although there's difficulty, we are doing a great deal of work, and it sounds like, well, that you're going to even take on more in the next couple of years. We did quite a bit now. We don't know what the new norm is. I think we're still norming, trying to find out what that is. So I truly believe that this board and the members of the board should take a raise. Let's say that first. As I was sitting here listening to the discussion, I was trying to think through what was the numbers. There's no such thing as the correct numbers, but the numbers are, in my mind, is whatever we gave the county-wise, that should go in first. And I do believe that much of the circumstances that you're facing today, you're going to be facing next year, and I should say for the next term. So I would recommend that you give yourself a raise, give consideration to giving a raise. I think it's the mid-year that the second one can come in. So I would leave it at 1% now, and maybe 1.5% at the next opportunity for the commission to be able to take a raise. And just know that as public service and all the things that you're doing, that it is needed. Because I would even venture to say that most of you, with these raises that you take, you're either doing one or two things. You're giving back to your community, because you're constantly, as I would imagine most of the communities, are being asked to buy ads, buy support for your kids, help your schools. There's always something that you're doing. So even though it looks like a raise that is going to go for living, you will quickly find that you're doing more with it. If I may, Madam Chair, I move that the board take a 1% raise immediately to go on effect. I think the wording is to go on effect immediately, followed by, and I apologize, I don't have the resolution in front of me, followed by 1.5% the next opportunity for the board to accept another raise.
So this is an amendment, okay? And
I need.
Okay, amendment from Commissioner Quarles, and do I have a second for Commissioner Quarles? Commissioner Markham.
And just to clarify, rather than immediately, it would be January 1st because of the statute.
I apologize, I didn't hear you.
Just to clarify, January 1st rather than immediately, just because of the statute of limitation.
Okay.
Any discussion about this? Okay, so any comments on it? Okay, yes, Commissioner McGilver.
Yes, again, I would reiterate, I don't think that 3% is inconceivable. If the employees will be getting a 3.16, I think you said, the county-wide will be getting a 1%. Their salaries are considerably higher than ours. And so their 1% is going to be a whole lot more than our 1%. So with that, I would be opposed to this amendment.
Well, I think, okay, Commissioner Middleton, do you have a comment on the amendment?
After the discussion, I'm comfortable with the motion that's on the floor. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on the amendment?
I have one.
Commissioner, okay, Commissioner Long, followed by Commissioner Gershenson.
Yeah, I still, on Commissioner Quarles, I still would be more comfortable with 0 this year. I know maybe many of you don't agree. And then maybe 2% the next year, just because of the COVID stuff. I realize that I think it is harder to work online and stuff. I realize that too, which Commissioner Quarles was pointing, but I don't know. I just almost think I'd rather have 0 and then a different percentage the second year. but I'll see where the conversation goes on Commissioner Quarles' amendment.
Okay, I had Commissioner Gershenson followed by Commissioner Quarles.
Go with Commissioner Quarles first, please.
Okay, Commissioner Quarles.
Yeah, and I can respect what you said, Commissioner Long, but 0 for the amount of work and effort that we put in as public servants this year. I think we deserve to move forward in our salary. So I stand firm with the 1% for January 1st. And the 1.5, I mean, I'm negotiable if someone wants to do something other than the 1.5 for the next opportunity. But I think we don't recognize ourselves for all that we do for the community. And it's bigger than our community. And I'll say this and then I'll pass it on, Madam Chair. It's bigger than our community because whatever we vote on for our district, it's really a whole. It's for the county-wide. It's for the effects of all the citizens within the county. So I really ask that you give that some consideration as you mull this over, especially for those who are troubled with getting a 1% this year. I mean, excuse me, January 1st. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Gershenson, do you have comments?
I do. I guess I'm trying to address Commissioner McGilvery's point of view, which I don't disagree with. But if we were to do a 1% and go up to 2% on the second year, you're talking about $75 difference between 1.5 and 2. So I just think it's important to keep it into perspective what we're talking about. I mean, I think we should be on par with our employees at 3% eventually. But I think given the circumstances, the 1% and then following it up with the 2 would I could support that.
Right now, we have a 1 and 1.5% amendment on the table. Okay, and then I'm going to recognize Commissioner Markham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that's a reasonable, what Commissioner Gershenson just said. I think that is a reasonable approach. It does show, that we value these jobs as equivalent to other jobs at the county in terms of ongoing compensation, but it also recognizes that we are willing to take a sacrifice in this first year because of COVID. I think it really does both of those things. So I can support the 1 followed by 2%, unless the rest of the commission doesn't feel that way, and then the 1 followed by 1.5% would be more to my liking. But I agree with the 1/2 approach.
Okay, so any other comments on the 1/1.5%? So if you don't like it, you can vote against it, and then someone can do another amendment. Okay, so any other comments? I'm gonna call the roll on this amendment.
On the amendment, Commissioners Gershenson?
No.
McGillivray?
No.
Quarles?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Long?
No.
Howell?
No.
Markham?
Yes.
Middleton? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Oh, you're
Yes.
muted.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Zach?
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 5 yeas and 4 nays.
So that amendment carries. Okay, Now, we move on to the issue of stipend. Okay, presently, there is a resolution that was adopted in, I believe it was 2014, that increased, there was a stipend for the chair of 20% and a stipend for the vice chair and the caucus chairs of 10%. And I am going to ask.
That's 5%. It is not 10%.
Okay.
The vice chair and caucus chair is 5%.
5%. So, thank you for correcting me. So that is the existing. So I am throwing it out to the committee if you want to propose anything different as stipends. I'm going to recognize Commissioner Gershenson. I'm going to recognize you first.
I'm sorry. I could. Commissioner Middleton, I think, was
okay,
up.
Commissioner Middleton, I'm going to recognize you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So if we do nothing, that resolution will stay in effect. Is that correct?
Correct. That is standing.
Madam Chair, I would just recommend if you do nothing, to just delete this dissolve clause.
Okay. Thank you very much for the recommendation. Okay. Any other comments? Commissioner Gershenson.
So I could support keeping things as they are in 2021 and then doing a raise in 2022. Now, the Democratic Caucus has met and discussed how we could strengthen our deliverables in the coming term. And one of the suggestions that was on the table was to give a stipend to the chair and the vice chair of the commission, as they already do, to the caucus chairs, plural, as we already do, include the caucus vice chairs, and include the committee chairs. So I want to have a discussion about that, because am I correct that the change in this cannot be done? If we change the stipends, it is a 2-year, we cannot change it again. It's whatever we agree right now.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Chris Ward, but my understanding is that we did the stipends as a separate resolution.
But is it a year or 2 years?
It was just a resolution that we created, and so it wasn't time limited because it will continue. So
the second year, you're saying we could put forth another resolution with
there could be a resolution that changed things, is my understanding. Is that correct, Chris Ward?
That is correct, but you would need to vote on any change now, because that would be an increase during the term. So,
okay.
You know, we did a stipend resolution, I think it was in 2014, effective in 2015, and it carries through term after term.
Okay, so it would be
That's
the following.
why I did want to put all this up for debate with our Republican commissioners as well.
Okay. So, other comments on stipend changes? Commissioner Markham.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kind of in the spirit of where we were before and recognizing that COVID is having an impact on everybody, I think any stipends beyond what were already in place, we should push out to next year for sure at the earliest. The one point I would like to make is I believe the chair of our commission is severely underpaid for the level of work that job requires. I really do. When I look at how much coordination, what other electeds in the county make, even what other non-electeds but department heads make across the board at the county. The fact that our board chair makes such a small amount, I think is wrong. I think maybe it's an artifact of many years past, and maybe this isn't the year to make that adjustment, but I want to put it in everybody's mind that we need to really look at that position and what we require of it and what is a proper compensation for it. So bottom line is I can support the stipends that exist today and not changing them for next year. But beyond that, I do think we need to have a discussion, and especially about the chair position. I can be open on everything else. So for this year, I would vote for no change.
You're on mute, Commissioner Zach.
Thank you. Commissioner Quarles, I'm going to recognize you.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to pick up where Commissioner Markham left off. I truly believe, and it has nothing to do with party, I certainly recognize other chairs. Whether I agreed with their final decision or not, I think that that person put in a great deal of work. And I too would like to see or suggest, I don't know what the right steps are, that the chairman of the Board of Oakland County Commissioners salary be reevaluated. And it should be reevaluated to either be looked upon as, lack of a better word, because I know this is an elected position, comparable or comparable to at least a director position in Oakland County. For the amount of time that that person puts in, the number of calls that they have to fill, the requirements of what that they need to meet. I do believe that that person is not compensated as well. And I'll even go back to our previous chair. I know how many times he and I happened to work in the same building at one time. And it was just unbelievable to me, the number of calls he had to fill, the time he had to take to decide to go meet with people, or in the future, if she has to do that. I just think it's something that's really unfair, and I would like to leave it on the note of, I hope one of the things that come out of this is to have an evaluation of the board chair and the compensation for that chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gershenson.
So I agree with you very much. However, we have to decide it today. We can't look at it in 2 years, and that's why this is uncomfortable. I agree with keeping things as they are this 2021. However, I'd like to make an amendment that in 2022, the chair stipend, which is currently 20%, and I don't have the figures now because I didn't know what the salary range, so it's above the salary range. But right now the chair is 20%. I'm going to recommend it be moved to 30%. I'm going to recommend the vice chair, which is currently 5%, be moved to 15%, which is half of the chair. I'm going to recommend that the caucus chairs go from 5% to 10%, and that the committee chairs either be at 5 or 10%. So I'm just throwing that out for discussion only because we need to talk about it now. It cannot be voted on until 2020 until the 2023 term.
Okay, comments about that proposal. So what I'm hearing is a 0% stipend increase the next year, and then the following year that the stipends get increased. Is that correct, Commissioner Gershenson?
That is correct.
So comments about that proposal? Okay. Are there any thoughts about it?
I will speak if I could, Commissioner Zach.
Please do.
Commissioner
Commissioner
Long.
Long.
And I realize that no matter what party, the chairman, I think, does a lot of other things. When we're not in COVID, I think they have to go many places. I know Chairman Ginzel was somewhere all the time at Oakland County and could have been gone 7 nights a week from his family. And I think Commissioner Woodward would be too if we weren't in COVID right now. And they have a lot more responsibility and get a lot more phone calls. With Commissioner Gershison's, I'm not sure I agree on the chairperson of each committee getting a raise. I think that we all run for that, at least I did, and it was experience and we enjoyed it. And I think Commissioner Zach enjoys it, Commissioner Middleton did, and I'm not sure I would go that way of adding stipends onto positions that didn't have them already yet in this 2-year thing. I'm not saying we can't study it in after the 2 years, but I'm not sure I want to add additional increases to something that's not already there in this next 2 years. That's just brought out there for discussion.
Okay, other comments? Commissioner Middleton.
Yes, on committee chairs, I don't think that they should get added stipend. Usually it's, you get a committee chair after you've been on the commission a while. And the first 3 or 4 years on commission is a learning process. After that, things kind of get a little easier. You know how to respond to calls. You have contact with all departments, and it's, easy to get responses back. And so with that ease of being a member, it leaves you available to move into leadership and take on those responsibilities. So I don't see an increased stipend for committee chairs. Thank you.
Commissioner Gershenson.
Just to clarify, Commissioner Middleton, there is no stipend, right, for committee chairs. So, so hearing what people are saying, I think I would now suggest 30% for the chair, 15% for the vice chair, 10% for the caucus chair of both parties, and 5% for committee chairs.
Okay, so at this point, any other comments about that? Commissioner Powell.
Can Commissioner Gershenson please review those numbers?
Yeah, and I'm going to ask Chris or Mike Andrews to come up with the actual numbers, because it would be based on, now it would be based on a 1.5, or actually a 2.5% salary increase. We're saying nothing in this year, but if we were to do, but you still don't have the 2.5. That's what it was, right? Or is it 2? It was 1 and 1.5. Is that what we voted on? 1 and 1.5, a total of 2.5?
So it'll just be between that 2 and 3%. So it'd be 49,000, just say. About 49,000 something, a little bit for 2.5.
49,000 is you're right. It would be between 48 and 49.
Right. So it's 49, and probably 49 is probably about right. 49,000 would be about the half extra percent.
Right. So what's the dollar amount? Is that's 737? Is that what we're talking? What's the dollar amount to a 30% increase? I see the mathematicians working on this as we speak. Because I think people need to know, well, how does that translate? Certainly, other communities, I don't remember which one, they were 12,000 for their chair.
So if I can, Madam Chair, you can see here in this column, under the 30%, you can see the 1%. I did not update this for the 2.5, but you can get the idea from the 2% up here. It's slightly changed. So,
But I think it's helpful for some of us to actually see the dollar amount, Chris. Is that possible?
yeah, if you give me another minute or two, I'll take this down and fix it.
Commissioner Zach, can I ask a question while he's doing that?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I wasn't aware that the caucus vice chair, do they get a stipend now? I just thought it was a caucus chair. It's not the caucus vice chair.
Just the caucus chair.
Okay. So that's additional, and then that would be the chair she's adding to committees.
It would be
Okay.
chair committee. I don't think I mentioned caucus vice chair, but if you felt, certainly in the minority caucus, that's important. So if you felt that it would be fair to add the caucus vice chair at 5%, I just want people to understand exactly how many dollars 5% is before we make.
Right. I'm not sure that the vice chair, no matter what party, minority, majority, needs an additional stipend, nor the committee chairs. So that's what I'm just seeing. I'll just wait till the final proposal's done. So
Okay.
thank you.
Sure.
So here's my question to the committee. Would it be easier to separate out some of the positions, do 2 different amendments on stipends or separate ones? I hear that there might be some more willingness to recognition that the chair works a lot harder and does deserve some compensation, whether that should be all in one amendment or whether it should be be separated out. What are your thoughts? Separate amendment or one amendment? Any comments? No one has an opinion. Okay.
Let's just put one amendment out there and see if we can get consensus.
Okay. Commissioner McGilvray?
I was gonna say the same thing.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
can make a motion based on what Member Gershenson said, except I would not include the committee chairs or the vice chairs of the caucus. I would say 30% for the chair, 15% for the vice chair, and did we say 10% for the caucus chairs?
Yes.
That's my motion.
And then that's your amendment to this
That's my-
resolution.
Right.
Okay, 30% for the chair, 15% for the vice chair, 10% for the caucus chairs. And we have the numbers before us now. So you can see the differential. Commissioner Middleton, are you asking to speak?
Yes, I am. Okay, is this, way I understand it, we were talking no change for this year. We're only talking these changes that are proposed is for the second year? Am I
Is
correct?
that, okay, I'm gonna go back to Commissioner Markham. So no change this year. This is year 2.
Correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, so, Any other comments about the amendment? Seeing or hearing none, I'm going to ask Pam to call the roll on this amendment.
Oh, do we have a support for that? I had Markham as
I need a support. Okay, Commissioner Gershenson. Okay, now let's call.
Commissioner Zach, can you repeat what the amendments for the second year? No raise the first year, and then what for the second year? 30% for the chair.
30% for the chair, 15% for the vice chair, 10% for both caucus chairs.
I
Okay,
apologize,
thank you.
Madam Chair. Question.
Okay, Commissioner Quarles.
I apologize. When does this take effect?
This is, okay, year one is 0%, zero stipend change. Year two is changing to these stipends. First year, nothing. Second year, 30% for chair, 15% for vice chair, 10% for caucus chair.
Okay, so year two, are we talking 2022?
It would be the fiscal year, so it would start October 1, 21.
October 1, 21 would be year one, year.
That would be year two.
Okay, all right. Good, thank you.
Commissioner Middleton.
Yeah, just clarification. With it's no change the first year. It's not zero because we already have things in place.
Right.
Yeah.
No change. Correct.
Things the same as it passed for the first year, and then the wordage that we had presented to us for the second year. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other
Madam Chair,
comment?
The easiest thing to do would be just say these are effective at the beginning of the next fiscal year.
Okay, and we'll amend the language to say that before we have it before the board this evening. Okay, so call the roll on the amendment, please.
On the amendment, Commissioners McGillivray,
Wait, I have one more question. I'm sorry. I have one more question, Commissioner Zach.
Yes, Commissioner Powell.
So with this, the committee chairs is eliminated and the 5% for vice caucus is eliminated, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I was just making sure. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's call the roll.
okay. Commissioners McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Powell, Powell,
Yes. If somebody Coral, she walked away and didn't see that she didn't mute herself.
oh, Lon,
No, right now.
Howell,
No.
Markham,
Yes.
Middleton,
No.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Zach.
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 6 yeas and 3 nays.
Okay, motion carries. Now, we have this resolution before us as amended. Any comments about it? Questions? Seeing, yes, Commissioner Middleton, followed by Commissioner Gershenson.
Okay, that's the complete resolution with all the changes that we've made. Is that what our vote is on now?
Yes, yes. It is the resolution as we just amended and inserted all those numbers.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gershenson.
Yes, I just wanted to thank all the commissioners on this call for having such an open, honest, civil conversation, and respectfully having different opinions, but including everybody's input. And I hope this is something that we can continue in the next term And I just wanted to commend everyone for the way we all interacted.
Thank you, and I will echo and support that. It was a very positive, thoughtful discussion. With that, call the roll, please.
On the resolution as amended, Commissioners Markham,
Yes.
Middleton,
No.
Gershenson,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Long,
No.
Howell,
No.
Zach,
Yes.
and sure you have 6 yeas, 3 nays.
Thank you. Moving on to Board of Commissioners reorganization of units and positions. Before we move for a motion, I do want to throw something out to our committee. I have another walk-on item that was proposed to me after I started this, and it is a continuation of the nurse positions. And what I said is it slipped through the cracks, didn't come to our staff as they thought it had, something didn't transpire. And I would like to take this up in this committee to address it here rather than wait to the board floor. So what's the committee's pleasure on the school nurses? I see a thumbs up. Thumbs up. I think it's an important thing. Okay, we will address it after this then. Thank you. Okay, the floor is yours, Mr. Ward, our chief. Tell us what we're doing.
We need a motion, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I need a motion. Commissioner Kowal, supported by Commissioner Gershenson. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Madam Chair. I really do appreciate the commissioners considering this. I know we got it out a little bit late, but we've been working feverishly on getting all the details together on it. There was an update to your packet, I believe. It just adds 2 different versions together. One was the budget amendment and then some information from HR. So if we could work from that one, I think that would be helpful. The purpose of this is to update the board's staff organization, considering all of the growth that we've had in activity. Over the last few years, we've gone from 9 staff to 14 in just a matter of a couple of years. First of all, what it does is create some units within our department that will have supervisor authority. There'll be 3 units: policy and fiscal analysis, operations, and marketing and communications. And with that, each unit will have a supervisor who has the authority to have direct supervision over the staff in that team unit. Also, we have a budget analyst right now, but what we'd like to do is upgrade that to a fiscal policy analyst with a little bit more compensation and background required, and transfer over that position of a budget analyst to operations analyst in support of board leadership, and also to do helping with the tracking and compliance of all of our contracts, et cetera. And then finally, in our Legal Resources Center, we've shrunk our staff down there, and at the same time asked a staff person there to take a much more responsibility. So there's some recognition of that, and using the position. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Commissioner Gershenson?
Well, first, let me say to the team, but I think Tom or Gary needs to mute. But Gary, must be Tom.
Is the background noise you're talking about?
We also have Commissioner Howell on phone now. So who's ever, please mute everybody.
Chief Ward, I just want to say what a wonderful ship you run, and how much we all appreciate everything that's been done. So I really have a lot of respect for your reorganization. Much like with the numbers, I find it very helpful if you put a name with who we're talking about shifting, because I don't relate to people by their position title.
Okay. Our supervisor of policy and fiscal analysis will be Michael Andrews. Our operations supervisor will be Megan Sellers. Marketing communications unit supervisor will be Sarah Moreau. Our current budget analyst is Andrea Powers, and she's been doing double duty supporting the board leadership and doing a lot with helping track the projects. And so she's going to transfer over to become an operations analyst. The fiscal policy analyst position will be open, and we'll be going through the hiring process. And then Erin Snelver is our LRC team leader. That'll be LRC specialist, I believe is the title that's listed there.
Can I ask you, what numbers did you use to determine a raise?
We worked with the Human Resources Department, and they looked at comparables in the upcoming compensation plan implementation. And we had some back and forth with them and made sure that everything, worked from our point of view and worked from their point of view.
So for the most part, is it an average of the 3% that all the employees are receiving?
So they will have the 3%. They'll be coming out of the compensation plan as you adopt it, assuming you adopt it tonight. But then there's an increase above that because there's increased responsibilities. So they're just going into new positions, but they'll be implemented similar to the compensation study where they're brought on at the new salary level and then brought up 2 steps.
Okay, so how did you determine that raise above the 3% or?
Yeah, so that's just to treat them similar to all the other employees, to bring them onto the compensation plan at that position level. And then the resolution before you tonight includes a step increase for all employees. So it just was important that they be treated the same as all the other employees.
I see. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments?
I have one, Commissioner Zach.
Okay, I'll start with you, followed by Commissioner Long, followed by Commissioner Kowal.
Okay, thank you. Chris, were you able to, are all the employees that this will affect, are they on board with this change, classification change? Yeah. I just realized, I think all of your workload, I think has increased dramatically during this COVID. I feel like yours has increased a lot. And I'm just making sure, do you think all the employees are on board with this reclassification that it affects?
Talked it through with the affected members of the staff and the overall plan before we've got the final numbers with the entire staff. So I think everybody is comfortable with what we're doing here. And creating these units will definitely help with our management structure and delegation of authority to make things more efficient and effective.
Okay, thank you.
Any other, I have Commissioner Kowal next.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I just like to say thank you to Chris and to all of our staff for adapting and overcoming with what we've had to go through because of the different work environments. And I know that pretty much every staff person's probably worn multiple hats at some point. So I'm sure that it would be much better for them. They'd be much happier having a clearer definition of what their job duties are. And I also recognize that we depend quite heavily on our staff because for us each individually to try to analyze and do everything ourselves would be quite extraordinary. But I think that this is a well thought out resolution. It's well thought out reorg, and I guess Chris doesn't want to wear 8 hats at one time or 12 hats at one time. I don't blame him there, but yeah, I totally applaud this change and look forward to working under this structure going forward. I'm totally supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And now that I know we're running a tight ship, I'm going to get a captain's hat. Appreciate all the kind comments about our staff. They do a wonderful job supporting all of us.
Any other questions or comments?
I have one more comment, Commissioner Zach.
Please
I do want to say,
Commissioner Long.
speaking of the staff, I would like to give a personal thank you to Mike Andrews for answering me on Sunday. He did a lot of work regarding our stipends and pay increases for me on Sunday, which is definitely his day off. So I really appreciate it. And that's just one more kudos to how good the staff is. So I wanted to make that known publicly. He helped me a lot. So thank you, Mike Andrews, if you're on here. You are, I see you.
I will chime in with everybody and concur that we have this amazing staff. I could not chair finance without Mike Andrews, who was also working with me yesterday as well, and Chris Ward. And this is long overdue, and I know that our chief worked hard on it. And I want to thank you and all of our staff. So any other questions or comments? Seeing none, let's call the roll, please.
Item number 9, Commissioner Squirrels. Squirrels, are you still here? Powell?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. Commissioner Quarles? I can't hear you. Long?
Yes.
Howell?
Yes.
Markham?
Yes.
Middleton? I'm sorry, Commissioner Middleton, could you? I can't hear you for some reason. Okay, just raise your thumb up if you're okay. I hear you now. Gershenson?
Yes.
Gilray?
Yes.
Quarles? Quarles? Are you there? Thought I saw your green light. Zach? Quarles, I see your green light. Are you there? Zach?
Yes.
And I'm sure you have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion carries. Last walk-on item. And it is in our email. I'm going to ask that we have, that we're going to pull it up in just a moment. And this last item is miscellaneous resolution, Department of Health and Human Services, Health Division, continuation of the Oakland Together School Nurse Program in partnership with Oakland Schools. So I need a motion for this, please. Commissioner Gershenson, supported by Commissioner Kowal. And what I'm going to ask, we have our Deputy County Exec, Rudy Hobbs, here with us. And my question is, Rudy, do you want to give an overview first before we put the resolution before us? You know, we'll put it on the screen. Why don't you tell us what we're doing? And then we can put the language up there and entertain questions and comments.
Well, first, Madam Chair and Commissioners, I really appreciate you allowing us to have some time this morning on your calendar. As you know, we've been in weekly conversations with our school districts, throughout the county, all 28, working with the ISD to kind of coordinate that. Earlier this week, we had a conversation about school nurses and our ability to continue that program. They expressed interest in us continuing this program to the end of the year, they being the school district. And so one of the things that, we shared with them is that, we had to put a resolution come before the board to do so. And so we really do think that this is, one of those programs that have worked very well from both sides. Our nurses have enjoyed the work. Our superintendents have been, always, they've always spoke highly of our nurses. And so there's a desire on both sides to want to continue this program. Just so you know, we have funded this program through our CARES Act. And because CARES Act currently has not been extended to date, we do anticipate that it will be extended. But for the purposes of our resolution, you'll find a different funding source. So it would not be CARES Act, it will be general fund, general purpose dollars. And so until we're able to get that reimbursed and switch over our funding source. We're looking to maintain or retain 60 of those nurses, and it'll be, I think, a total of $1.4 million is the cost. So that's just a general overview. I think you guys are very familiar with the program, but that's a general overview.
Okay, so do you want to see the resolution before us right now? Or you want it up on the screen? Any commissioners, let me know. Do you want to see it on the screen? You want to, okay, do I have, I'm not getting it. Okay. How about questions for Rudy Hobbs?
I have one, Commissioner Zach.
Please do.
Commissioner Long. Oh, I'm sorry, I was muted. So Rudy, without most of the schools out, I think they're all out again now. What are the school nurses doing right now if they're not with the students right now?
So we do have several school districts that are in, but for the most part, they are working also with private schools and public service academies who are also in. So there's plenty of work for our school nurses to do, outside of just our 28 school districts. So we are supporting the other schools, private and again, the public service academies. The other piece too, they are working though with superintendents who are not in. There's a lot of conversation about what January and February looks like. So there's quite a bit of planning that is happening between our nurses and the school districts.
Okay, thank you. And I think that would be very important when they do go back to have these nurses involved. And then how many nurses is this again? I don't have the resolution in front of me. I forgot 60. The number. How many
60 nurses.
How many?
60.
60. Okay. And then they're not assigned to one school. They go as needed. Is that correct?
They are assigned to school districts so that we can kind of continue to build a relationship. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, do I have any other questions or comments right now? Well, anybody want to see the resolution other than their email? Okay, seeing no questions, comments, let's call the roll.
On item number 10, Commissioners Powell,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
Middleton? I couldn't hear you. Okay. Yes, okay. Gershenson?
Yes.
McGillivray?
Yes.
Quarles?
Yes.
Zach?
Yes.
Madam Chair, you have 9 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. And any other business to come before finance? Commissioner Kowal, followed by Commissioner Markham.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to say thank you, Madam Chair, for running a very good committee. these last 2 years. You stepped into the position and you've done a great job of being on top of everything and just a really good job of being finance chair and very communicative and just done a great job. So I just want to let you know I appreciate that very much.
Thank you for your wonderful, kind comments. I appreciate it. And I want to, before I recognize Commissioner Markham, say I so appreciate this committee that we can have these honest discussions about salary raises and work together collaboratively. And I truly appreciate it. Thank you. Commissioner Markham.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And kind of going along with Commissioner Kowal, I just want to recognize our current chair, yourself, our former chair, Commissioner Middleton, and a longstanding member, Nancy Quarles. All of you are retiring at the end of this term, and I'm scared to death because you're the brain trust. But, you know, I really appreciate how much you've taught me in the 2 years that I've been here, and how, as many have said today, how some very difficult discussions have been able to take place, and we've been able to work together to make tough decisions. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate the leadership of all of you who have brought us to that place. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Kowal.
Well, thank you for adding in the other two. That was negligent of me. But thank you, Commissioner Middleton and Commissioner Quarles. And I'd also like to thank all our staff and the folks that we work with from the administration. Lynn Sonkus has done a great job, you know, staying in touch with everything during the transition and continuing on. So everybody else that has functioned in a way that, and Mike Andrews, obviously, that has made this committee work. And I see Commissioner Gershenson's getting her coat on, so she's ready to leave. Anyway, I think it's been a good 2 years. It's been different, but whoever steps in for Helene and previous, you know, she stepped in for Tom, did a good job, but whoever steps in for Helene has big shoes to fill. So I just wanted to add that in as well. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. And my understanding is that my vice chair, Gwen Markham, is going to be the next chair of finance. That's my understanding. And Gwen has been working very closely with me, succession planning, and really has been included in the communications going on through this whole budget process. You know, she is so that she understands the process. So I feel confident that she's ready to lead. So any other comments or questions? Once again, thank you everybody for all of your hard work. It's been an honor and a pleasure to work with all of you on finance, and I'll see you this evening. Finance is adjourned.
See you later.